Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the E.N.G Media Podcast. We have a very exciting guest, Alon with echo3D. For those of you just joining the podcast, I am Christian Gannon, the co-founder of E.N.G Media, and we specialize in helping software and tech companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your software tech business to the next level, make sure to stick around. So let's get right into it. I understand echo3D offers a cloud-based 3D asset management platform that helps developers, creators, and organizations store, optimize, and deliver 3D content efficiently. By simplifying how teams manage models and scans, echo3D enables seamless collaboration across AR, VR projects, gaming, digital twins, and other immersive experiences, removing backend complexity so teams can focus on building and scaling. Could you share a little bit more about your business, the services you offer, and your role within it?
Yeah, 100%. Super excited to be here. Thank you so much for the invite, Christian. So as you mentioned, we're echo3D. We're a cloud solution for 3D digital asset management, which is a very fancy way to say an organizational Dropbox for 3D, or Google Drive for 3D, or SharePoint for 3D. We help enterprises to basically share and store these massive 3D digital twins or 3D models or animations or interactive content. We work with companies like Chevron that have 3D models of their oil rigs. And these are massive files that you need to kind of figure out how to store efficiently. Or companies like Energizer that have 3D models of whatever they manufacture, and they need a way to share that across their team. If you think specifically about 3D as like kind of this type of content, it's pretty different than what we're expecting from images and videos. An image or a video could usually be a single file, but for 3D, let's say a scan of this office, that could be a mesh skeleton animation texture, so like 17 files that are a 3D model. So how do you handle that? How do you manage them together? Sometimes these files can be massive, right? So this 3D scan of this office could be 50 gigabytes large, and I want to stream it to your phone in 5 seconds. How do I do that? So a lot of what our product does is kind of handle the complexity of this types of content. Their file format, which could be different between different platforms. So iOS has one file format for 3D, Android has another. How do you kind of marry those together? So a lot of our core tech is the conversion, compression, and optimization of 3D content. And yeah, it's been a wild ride. We deploy as any kind of SaaS provider, like kind of deploying our software to enterprises. And the cool thing is that we're also able to deploy on-prem, which means that we can deploy our software on your end, and you kind of enjoy all the security of basically hosting your data on your end with no leakage and no kind of sharing the files online.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And when did the idea come about to fill this gap in the market? Where did you see the gap initially?
Yeah, so I started the company almost 7 years ago, with my twin brother. So if you don't have a twin, get one. It's the best thing ever. I went to Columbia Engineering, specifically focused on computer graphics and kind of 3D AR VR stuff. And my kind of superhero origin story was around my thesis project, where we took CT and MRI scans, converted them into 3D, and basically allowed surgeons to see the patient's heart floating above them during surgery while they're wearing these cool AR glasses. It was a wild use case. I scrubbed into surgeries, and it was really, really nuts. Like we were like, they're drilling in a live patient, and I'm just this kid who was able to build a 3D app. But the problem came when I realized that I have to do something I really hate, and that's waking up super early in the morning. I had to be at the hospital like 5 a.m., take out those 3D models, put them on the app, recompile the app. And I was like, really? There's no like Dropbox? I can just drag and drop those 3D models and just appear in the app? Why do I need to physically be in this hospital every single morning? And there wasn't. There was no like storage solutions that were really focused on 3D. So I had that personal and professional problem. This is something a lot of kind of entrepreneurs have, right? Like this personal and professional issue that you want to solve, and you're the person to solve. Teamed up with my twin brother because like the world of 3D digital twins is such a big, buzzword. So like actual twins is even better. And we decided we're gonna solve that. We brought in another co-founder who's like a brother from another mother as our CTO, and the rest is history. We raised $9.5 million in a bunch of VC rounds. Latest was with Qualcomm Ventures, who are big supporters of kind of 3D hardware and chipsets. And yeah, that's kind of how it all started and how it's all going. I'm a big fan of, again, like entrepreneurs coming in and coming in with their personal and professional fit for this market. A lot of people talk about product market fit, but I really like founder market fit, kind of the answer to the question, why you? And I think that's usually kind of the secret component to scale up a company and grow, when people realize that kind of you're the person to solve this.
100%. And I think that's a great answer. And kind of shifting a little bit from your perspective right now, what are the trends that you're seeing in the 3D technology or the spatial computing space?
Yeah, so I think you can't ask that question without getting an answer that is AI, obviously, right? That's
Right,
kind of the
of
buzzword
course, of
these
course.
days, which is kind of interesting because, like, in the beginning, we are like, again, we're very adjacent to that, not like we're an AI company. But then we kind of started exploring that a little bit, and then we realized that a lot of the new features that we introduced actually do handle AI as basically a really, really valid use case. So one example is like we have AI-powered tagging. When you upload a 3D model to Echo, our system will automatically visually understand what that file is. So let's say you upload a 3D model of a car. Our system will understand that it's a sports car, will understand that it's green, will understand that it has four wheels. And that really helps with search and indexing of 3D. So here's kind of this trend that AI is kind of disrupting everything. But in our case, this is like a legitimate, like it's not a buzzword, it's a legitimate tool that we can kind of use to enrich data. So one is AI powered searching. Another thing that we're doing is kind of visual compare. So like you upload a file, we can tell you, hey, this file already exists or a similar file already exists. So a lot of things around like version control and making sure that you have um, good use of the data. It's something that we're super, super excited about. And there's other trends that we're seeing right now. It seems that kind of content creation is easy, right? So like today, I mean, no one bats an eye when you generate an image using AI. Now we have
Hmm.
all these models that generate videos. How about 3D models, right? Like if I want to generate a 3D model of a cat with a Christmas hat, why wouldn't I be able to do that? So these are kind of really cool trends that we're seeing that are kind of being pushed by AI. And also from our perspective, that was another kind of suddenly a growth kind of opportunity that came about because we're seeing a lot of companies who are actually building tools for content generation and they need APIs and they need ways to store data and they need ways to query data. And suddenly we come in, it's like, hey, we have all these assets on storage. You can train your module using your model through our 3D models through our content that exists in our cloud and use our API to do so. So really interesting stuff. And again, it kind of seems that AI is kind of disrupting everything.
100%. I think I'm hearing similar things in my network as well, especially as you were talking
Yeah,
about training bots, especially agentic AI is a huge
right.
thing. And some things that I've heard on the podcast so far, are just where is it going, right? Is it going to be all of these kind of companies that haul up all these AI agents, or is one going
Yeah,
to cut above the noise, right? And I think that's the big question right now, especially in choosing which one to use, because there's so many out there now.
right. And I think the cool thing about it is like anyone can start it, right? Any entrepreneur can decide, hey, I want to be the next agent that does this and this and that. And yeah, it might be competitors out there, but you can still be like very hyper focused on the specific issue that you have, create some AI agents that solve that, and bam, you're like, top of the food chain. So really, really kind of exciting times to build.
100%. And I think, as you were saying, if you can build a good product, it could lead to a really good exit too from a lot of those bigger competitors that might buy it out.
Sure.
I saw Wix just bought out one of the AI bots for 80 million, and it was a
Yeah,
6 month
in
startup.
cash,
Like
no
that,
less.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
crazy. I'm glad you saw that too. But I think that's a trend. I think that's a really good. If you're an entrepreneur and you see a problem and you fix it with an agentic bot, that's a really good trend right now. But kind of
100%.
switch. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I totally agree. And I also think like what a cool way for like kind of bigger companies right now, again, like you mentioned Wix specifically, that now if they want to integrate kind of AI into their existing system, suddenly they can, they can bring it from external startups. That's kind of a really cool way for kind of startups to ship their product even faster, just like join a existing like big company.
100%. I think it's a win-win on both sides for sure.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about growth a little bit, and as we specialize in marketing, we kind of like to know, how did you grow Echo to this point, and what do you guys kind of do to grow?
Oh, fantastic question. So in the beginning, we kind of like shifted and grew ourselves. We started very developer focused. We were sponsor hackathons, really went out there wherever developers exist out in the wild. And we got a lot of traction through that. That's kind of a lot of our early adopters were developers or creators who wanted some integration with 3D content or some kind of API. And the more we grew, suddenly we realized, hey, we're actually serving bigger and bigger enterprises, bigger teams, and for that, we have to shift our go-to-market strategy. Where are teams hanging out? Where are decision makers hanging out? So today, a lot of our focus is in kind of in-person conferences. So again, like where do my users kind of operate in the wild? Is it
Hmm.
conferences? Is it kind of all these kind of in-person events? So we host and attend those. We do a lot of online marketing, so kind of get a lot of kind of eyeballs on our product. And we do a lot of LinkedIn outreach and kind of email campaigns. But a thing the thing that worked really well for us, like the best thing, was actually content. So once we created a lot of like either SEO optimized content or kind of blog posts that really speak to the problem that we're solving and the different industries that we're serving, we really started to see kind of an influx of interest and an influx of users coming into the platform from enterprises who are looking to solve the exact problem. Um, and what was interesting about that is like we were able to iterate on that content based on that. So like every time we talked to some prospective client, we really listen. Like, how do they describe their problem? What words do they use? What is the verbiage that they use to describe their product? And then we would do content that uses that because this is how they're describing the problem. This is how we want to present those up as well. Though there's kind of this fit between our product and their needs.
100%. And I think that's an amazing answer. And from marketing background, I think that's an even better answer in the sense of you're understanding your ideal client and then really going out to the market and showing that, hey, this is how we serve this and that we understand this. So we have the product for that solution, right? That's
Yeah.
awesome. And
I mean,
switching over,
1,000%. Think about how you, sorry to cut you off, but
no,
how
you're
is it
good.
like if you want to like talk to someone in their own words, like what's better
Right.
than that?
100%, 100%. And switching kind of to the more personal side of things, what does your typical day-to-day look like as a founder?
Yeah. So being a founder is really hard. I mean, there's like good and bad, right? So the good is like I can kind of control my schedule a little bit, but at this point, it's really kind of your casual 9 to 6, not a 9 to 5. But like you wake up, you kind of sync up with your team. We have like stand-ups, kind of weeklies and dailies to kind of go through everything. I usually open my morning with just like a bombardment of emails, making sure that I need to address everything. I think
Mm-hmm.
today's software is really global. So I'm on the East Coast in New York. So like when I wake up, the entire work was still working while I was sleeping. So you kind of have to address that a little bit. And then we have a bunch of team meetings. Usually my days are filled with kind of meetings, either sales calls or things around marketing or partnerships or things around the team. But I try to keep it flexible. And yeah, but it's really my kind of productivity hack is to just consider my calendar as my Bible. Whatever is written in the calendar, that's what goes. So I kind of make sure that every week I have my next week planned out as well, and everything is really kind of organized. And I do whatever the calendar says I need to do. And that's how can I help to switch context. Another thing that I really do that I think helps is like every Monday I send weekly and monthly up. So every week I send weekly updates. Every month I send monthly updates. Something that I have in my calendar every single Monday. You can expect updates about our company, and I send them to all of our investors. The monthly go out to like kind of a bigger group of supporters and stuff like that. But that creates this kind of weekly accountability that every single week I send updates and I ask my team to send me updates because they know that I'm going to send it to our investors. So like every week we have that kind of like kind of Elon style. What have you done this week? I would argue that Alon was here before Elon. A comes before an E, I guess. But but yeah, and like, that's something that kind of like again on the weekly basis, kind of like that's kind of how my schedule goes. The calendar says that I need to do that, and on Mondays I'm always going to send that update that kind of lets me basically get a retrospective on what have we done this week. Do we need to shift something? And then like when we kind of sync up with the team, I know where we kind of gonna lead this machine towards.
100%. I think that's a great way to manage that too. I think some of our viewers are going to find that very helpful in managing their own teams as well, and just understanding what's really going on in all the different sectors of the company, right? I think it's important, even if I'm on one side, maybe I'm on sales and marketing, but
Right.
understanding the features that are getting built on the development side is important so that I understand when I'm talking to prospective clients, like, hey, we have this thing that's about to launch. I'm really excited about XYZ and what it could do for you, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's awesome.
You brought up a really good point. Like we actually have usually on Tuesdays we do a call with like kind of all hands, but the point is to kind of bring together the techies and the non-techies. And the really like the kind of outspoken thing is like we want the non-techies to ask the techies questions. We just did a release. All the non-techies, you need to like kind of like feel very, very comfortable to always reach out to techies and ask like things about the product, things about the features that were just released, and create that dialogue. Because a big poison pill to a lot of companies is, if there's no team cohesion and if like the non-techies don't feel that they can ask the techies for help or kind of really have a kind of great understanding of the product that is now live. And vice versa. I think a lot of the techies, they need to take pride in their work. And sometimes the way it works is by the marketing, suddenly, evangelizing some feature that they just released. And like kind of screaming out the rooftops of like, hey, we just shipped this. So I think for techies as well, I think that kind of gives the kind of pat on the back of like, hey, what you're doing is valuable and people want to hear about it.
100%. And kind of in that spirit, like looking ahead, what's next for echo3D in the next 6 to 12 months? Are there any big product features or launches on the roadmap that maybe you could talk about?
Yeah, oh, love it. That's a great question. Yeah, so we're really working on more and more, obviously AI stuff, which is kind of like we talked about a little bit, but more because we're serving more bigger and bigger enterprises, we're kind of leaning into more workflows and more automations that allow you to kind of perform operations on content on a massive scale. We're serving clients today, they have like thousands and thousands of 3D models. And let's say like one of the edits they want to do is like, I want to go through all these models and change some metadata or tag it some way. So we're leaning into kind of automating a lot of these processes and kind of empowering our users with tools that allow them to basically do batch operations and workflows on a massive, massive scale.
That's awesome. And I really did want to highlight something you mentioned is listening to the users and then developing the solution is a huge thing that I keep hearing across successful entrepreneurs. I think that a lot of people that I've seen go to market maybe don't have too much features or not enough, right? Because they didn't get the
Right.
information from their users or the people that are actually going to use the product daily or weekly or whenever, right? And now we either have too many features where it's an overload or we don't have not enough or we have the wrong ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of, the 101 in entrepreneurship is like build something that people want. So you really need to listen and kind of create your roadmap based on customer feedback. A lot of entrepreneurs, specifically the kind of technical ones, like myself, like in the beginning, you're really like, oh, if you build it, they will come. Or like, I really want to build
Hmm.
something and like I have that passion to kind of run through and kind of rush through the roadmap, but that's not the way to go. Like it's really like you really need to solve your problems. You really need to build something that they want versus something that you want, and really, really listen to the users. I mean, that's what you're all about. And I think the satisfaction, it's kind of undersold, but like the satisfaction of like building something that someone actually wants and they want to use it and they're actually like that's the biggest, the happiest thing that you can have versus like, oh, I built something and I kind of winged it and hopefully someone wants this. So I think that's something that people need to kind of consider.
100%. I liked how you said, "Well, I'll build it, and the people will come." I think that couldn't be. Now, there's some truth in that. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but I think a lot of it goes into back when we were talking about growth of pairing a great product with great marketing, because there's a lot of great products out there that don't make it past those first couple stages in a startup because the marketing or the go-to-market wasn't good, right? It could
Right.
have been a great product that solved a lot of problems, but the other half of it wasn't there. So having both of those aligned and, like you were saying, having meetings with the techie and the non-techie, right, is so essential in growing past a certain point.
1,000%.
And that kind of leads me into my last question. It's a fun one, but a tough one. Hypothetically, if you had a magic wand and could solve just one problem within your business, what would that be?
Ooh, that's a big one. Yeah, I mean, growth is such a kind of big thing. Like that's I think what people even want. I think for us, if I can wave my wand and kind of reduce the sales cycles, like how long they go, specifically in enterprise clients, are like usually very long. I think that will be, whatever magic I can pull. I think that will be that. Um, I think again, like people underplay like how important marketing is to kind of like increase your funnel, how important it is to have like consistent pipelines. So this is definitely kind of what I would want. That would be kind of the big problem right now, kind of like figuring out like sales at scale and marketing at scale.
I think that's a great answer. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are there with you because it's tough. I don't think it's an easy
Yeah.
path for anyone. So, but if people want to connect with you or learn more about what Echo3D is doing, where could they go and how could they connect?
Oh, echo3d.com. Definitely check us out. We also have like a kind of free trial that you can use, play around with our system. If you don't know enough about 3D, you should. So kind of play around with the system a little bit. We're also on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. Feel free to reach out. We just today even launched a really cool campaign with Google on YouTube around like how you integrate Echo 3D with Google Cloud. So definitely check that out. And connect with me personally on LinkedIn. Say hi on Twitter, on X, whatever. Say, great to connect with everyone.
Perfect. I will leave the links to both Alan's LinkedIn as well as his website in the description of this video. I highly recommend you check out Echo 3D and the incredible things they're doing in this space. I checked out the website myself. I thought the 3D model on there, I think it's like a little mushroom house, is really cool. I played with it for 5 or 10 minutes just messing around, but I thought there's a lot of education in there too for someone who's maybe a non-techie, as you would say, right? In the sense of understanding what they really do. But other than that, thank you again, Alan, for your time and insights today, and we'll see you guys on the next podcast.